Imagine pulling a dull, copper coin from the bottom of an old jar. To most people, it's worth a single cent. But what if I told you this very coin, struck in 1960, carries a secret that has turned ordinary Americans into millionaires overnight? A secret the mint never wanted anyone to notice. A secret hidden in plain sight, resting quietly in pockets, drawers, and collections for over 60 years. 1 penny. A single mistake. A fortune waiting to be found. The year was 1960. America was on the cusp of transformation. A young John F. Kennedy was running for president. Factories roared with the hum of industry. And in the Denver Mint, a routine day of coin production was unfolding. But buried within those presses, history slipped. And that slip created one of the most mysterious and valuable pennies ever to exist. The 1960 Lincoln cent with a D-mint mark looks ordinary at first glance. But not all were created equal. Some carry a double life. A variation so strange, collectors call it the small date versus the large date duel. The Denver Mint, in its rush, struck both types, mixing them together like a shuffled deck of cards. And inside that shuffle, errors, anomalies, and breathtakingly rare survivors were born. Think about this. To the naked eye, these pennies all look the same. Millions passed through hands, spent on gum, soda, bus rides. Nobody noticed, nobody cared, until decades later, when sharp-eyed collectors spotted the difference. A single digit, a subtle curve, a misplaced impression. And suddenly the truth broke open. Some of these pennies weren't worth 1 cent at all. They were worth a new life. But here's where the story gets electric. Among those coins, a handful emerged with even stranger quirks. Doubling on the date, misaligned dies, subtle minting flaws that make them stand out like rare diamonds in a desert of copper. And each one of those errors has rewritten the value of the humble penny. We're not talking hundreds of dollars. We're not talking thousands. We're talking the kind of money that buys freedom, wipes away debt, and changes the story of a family forever. Pause for a second. Ask yourself, when was the last time you looked closely at the coins in your home? How many times have you passed over a penny because it seemed worthless? What if the coin that could set you free has been hiding in your change jar for decades, waiting for you to notice? Collectors whisper about the 1960 D small date penny like it's a ghost. Some say it's the coin that proves destiny hides in the smallest places. Others call it the great overlooked treasure of American numismatics. But the truth is undeniable. One coin from this series has sold for nearly $1 million. And its brothers and sisters are still out there, undiscovered. Now listen carefully, because this is the part most people never hear. The small date version of the 1960 penny has a thinner, more delicate numeral 0. The 6 curls slightly different than its large date counterpart. The details are subtle, but they are the fingerprints of fortune. And when you add the D-mint mark from Denver to this equation, you unlock a rarity that can command astronomical prices in auctions today. Here's the danger though. People throw them away. Pawn shops overlook them. Banks send them to be destroyed. Every day, fortunes vanish into the void simply because no one took the time to look. So here's my challenge to you. Go to your drawers, your piggy banks, your dusty coffee cans of coins. Hold each 1960 D penny to the light. Study the date. Does the 0 look small, sharp, tight? That's your signal. If you see doubling, if you see a strange shine or flaw, don't spend it. Don't trade it. Protect it. Verify it. Because you might be holding a ticket worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. The dream of wealth, of freedom, of rewriting your own story could be 1 coin away. It doesn't take luck. It takes awareness. It takes the willingness to look where others don't. And right now, as of today, the 1960 D Lincoln penny, when found in its rarest and most valuable form, can sell for up to $960,000. Think about that the next time you glance at a penny. It might just be the one that changes everything. Imagine holding a penny so ordinary. It slips unnoticed through millions of hands. Copper, dull, forgettable. A coin you've seen 1,000 times. But what if I told you that hidden inside the year 1964 lies one of the most overlooked treasures in American coinage history? A coin that could transform pocket change into a life-altering fortune. It begins with a secret buried deep inside the Denver Mint. The year was 1964. The nation was in upheaval. The demand for coins was exploding. Inflation, silver shortages, the economy in flux. And under all this pressure, the mint produced billions of Lincoln cents, billions. To the naked eye, these pennies looked identical. And that's where the story gets dangerous. Because hidden among them were mistakes, errors, and misstrikes so rare, they would one day become worth more than most homes. Let me ask you, how many times have you let a 1964 penny pass through your hands without a second thought? How many times did you toss one into a jar, never realizing that one of the rarest versions in existence could have been staring back at you? What if the coin that could rewrite your financial future is already sitting in your drawer? There's something almost poetic about this year. 1964 was the last gasp of America's traditional coinage. The final moments before silver disappeared from our dimes, quarters, and half dollars. It was the turning point when the mint, under pressure, made mistakes. Planchets slipped through. Discrect. Double strikes escaped. And one error in particular created a penny that collectors today whisper about like a ghost story. Picture this. A coin struck on the wrong metal. A 1964 Lincoln penny, not copper, but silver-colored. Not because it was meant to be, but because the mint accidentally used leftover planchets from another denomination. A coin that should not exist, but does. Each discovery of such a piece is like unearthing a lost artifact. A handful of them have surfaced, and every single time the value has skyrocketed into six figures, sometimes more. But that's not the only twist. Some 1964 pennies reveal doubling so sharp you can see it with the naked eye. Letters dancing, numbers echoing, Lincoln's portrait shadowed. Errors so bold, they transform an everyday coin into a priceless mistake. Think about that for a moment. One tiny misstep inside the mint 60 years ago could become your ticket to a brand new life. That is the power of this penny. And yet most people have no idea. Now, here's the secret you need to know. If you ever come across a 1964 penny with the D mint mark under the date, stop. Do not spend it. Do not toss it aside. Look closer. Search for doubling, especially on the date and lettering. Check the weight. Should it feel different, heavier, or lighter than the normal 3.11 grams, you may have a coin struck on the wrong planchet. Hold it to the light. Study every detail, because the tiniest difference could mean the difference between 1 cent and nearly $1 million. Ask yourself this: what would you do if you found one? Pay off debts? Buy a home? Secure your children's future? Or maybe simply breathe for the first time, free from the weight of financial worry? That's the dream hidden inside this coin. And yet, every day, people unknowingly let these treasures slip away. They spend them at grocery stores, leave them in parking meters, hand them over for nothing. Why? Because no one told them the truth. Until now. This is your moment. Go to your coin jar. Dig through the drawers. Open that old coffee can where your parents saved change. The 1964 penny is waiting. Maybe for decades, it's been waiting for you. Right now, collectors are paying staggering amounts. One rare version of the 1964 Lincoln penny has reached values as high as $964,000. Nearly $1 million for a coin worth 1 cent on its face. And here is the reality you cannot ignore. That coin might already belong to you. Imagine holding a single penny and realizing it could change the rest of your life. Not because it's made of gold, not because it shines, but because of a quiet secret hidden since 1967, stamped in copper, overlooked by millions, and discovered by only a chosen few. What if the very coin you tossed into a jar, the one gathering dust in your drawer, was worth more than most people's homes? What if that coin was sitting in your pocket right now? The 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark looks ordinary. In fact, it was designed to look ordinary. But here's the truth no one ever told you. Nothing about this coin's story is ordinary. In the 1960s, America was in turmoil. The mint was drowning in production pressure. Mistakes were made. Corners were cut. And the year 1967 became a shadow year in coinage history. Mint marks, those tiny letters that tell us where a coin was struck, were deliberately removed. Officially, it was to stop collectors from hoarding. But unofficially, it created a perfect storm, a generation of coins that look common but hide unthinkable rarities. And the 1967 Lincoln penny? That's the one that keeps experts awake at night. Why? Because buried among billions of these so-called ordinary cents are error strikes and misalignments that slipped past inspectors.
Double dies.
Off-center impressions. Razor-thin differences that turn 1 cent into a six-figure fortune. Imagine being the person who finds it. One moment, you're staring at a coin worth a penny. The next, you're holding a ticket out of debt, into freedom, into the life you've dreamed of but never thought possible. But here's the cruel twist. Most people who owned one of these life-changing pennies never knew. They spent them without looking. They gave them as change for a cup of coffee. They lost their chance at wealth forever. So ask yourself, could you already have one? Look closer. A 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark should have crisp lettering, even edges, and a smooth strike. But the ones worth fortunes tell a different story. A doubling in the date. A faint shadow in the words, "In God we trust." An off-center strike where Lincoln's face drifts unervingly close to the rim. Each flaw is a fingerprint of rarity, and each one can add thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, to the value. Collectors know this. Dealers whisper about it. And a few lucky souls have cashed in, turning a penny into a home, a retirement, even a legacy for their children. But the window is closing. Every year, more of these rare survivors are found, graded, and locked away in private collections. The supply shrinks, the prices climb, and the chance to stumble across one in pocket change grows slimmer by the day. So here's the moment of truth. Will you keep treating your coins like background noise? Or will you start seeing them for what they could really be? Because right now, a 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, if it carries the right errors, the right quirks, the right history, has been valued at up to $456,000. And it could be sitting unnoticed in your home this very second. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a penny so ordinary, so familiar, and realizing it could pay off your mortgage, your debts, even your retirement in one breathtaking instant. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? But there's a coin hiding in plain sight that has done exactly that. The 1970 Lincoln penny with the Denver mint mark. A coin worth just 1 cent on its face, but in rare, extraordinary cases, valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars. How could something so small, so overlooked, hold such enormous power? The answer lies in a story of mistakes, secrecy, and the kind of history most people never hear. Back in 1970, the Denver Mint was under pressure. Production had to be fast, flawless, endless. But in that rush, something extraordinary happened. Some pennies slipped through with doubled features on their obverse, distorted dates, letters echoing faintly like ghosts. Others carried subtle quirks in design and strike that only the sharpest eyes could catch. To most, they looked ordinary. To collectors, they became treasure. And here's the chilling truth. Most of those coins were never recorded, never announced, never even admitted by the mint. They simply vanished into circulation, waiting for someone, maybe you, to stumble upon them. Picture this: a man in Ohio cashes in his old jar of change, the kind he's been filling for decades. A local coin dealer spots something strange in the pile. A faint doubling on the 1970 Denver penny. That coin alone later sells for a price greater than a year's salary. 1 cent transformed into six figures. Now, let me ask you, how many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? How many drawers, jars, or coffee cans in your home are quietly holding a fortune, while you assume they're just spare change? The thrill of this discovery isn't just about money. It's about reclaiming control of your destiny. It's about the idea that freedom, security, and even wealth could be hiding in the smallest corner of your life, waiting to be uncovered. But here's the danger, and this is why you need to listen carefully. Most people throw these coins back into circulation without realizing what they have. Some even sell them for a few dollars, unaware they've just given away the chance of a lifetime. So how do you know if you have one? Here's what to look for. Turn that 1970 penny with the D mint mark under a good light. Examine the date. If the numbers appear doubled, especially the 7 and the 0, that's your first sign. Look closer at the word liberty and the motto "In God We Trust." If the letters seem shadowed, doubled, or slightly misaligned, you may be holding a fortune. The coin must be genuine, not worn past recognition, and ideally verified by a trusted grading service. But remember this, rarity hides in details. Many have missed it. Don't make their mistake. The weight of this moment is simple. Every time you ignore a coin, you could be ignoring the very key to the life you've always dreamed of. The chance to secure your family's future, to live with freedom, to say yes when life asks the big questions. Right now, collectors are paying staggering amounts for the 1970 double die penny. One example sold for over $90,000. Others have been valued far higher, pushing toward life-changing sums. Think about it. 1 cent, one mistake by the mint. 1 stroke of luck in your favor. So tonight, when the house grows quiet and you find yourself reaching for that old jar of change, remember what you've just heard. Because the treasure hunt doesn't begin in the desert or the mountains, or the SE.IT begins in your own home, with a single penny. And as of this very moment, the 1970 Lincoln penny with the Denver mint mark has been valued up to $90,000 and beyond. A coin so ordinary, yet capable of rewriting a life story in an instant. Imagine reaching into your pocket and pulling out a penny so ordinary, so invisible, that you'd never think twice before dropping it into a tip jar. But what if I told you that hidden among those dull copper coins is a 1991 Lincoln penny with no mint mark? A coin so rare, so mysterious, that it has quietly turned everyday people into millionaires. And here's the truth that will keep you up tonight. You might already have 1 to 4 decades. Collectors believe the 1991 Lincoln penny was nothing special. Over 8 billion were minted. They filled bankrolls, rattled inside piggy banks, and piled up in coffee cans across America. But in the shadows of the mint, something went wrong. A few slipped through the presses without their mint mark. A missing letter, a missing identity. And because of that mistake, these coins transformed from worthless copper into priceless artifacts. Think about that. A penny meant to vanish into circulation, suddenly reborn as a secret worth more than entire houses. Why does this matter? Because most people never notice. They spend them, they toss them, they ignore them, and yet, the collectors who pause, who look closer, are the ones who change their lives forever. Picture this. A man in Ohio digging through a box of old change his father left behind. At first glance, nothing more than dirty pennies. But under the light, he sees it. Lincoln's face sharp and clear, the year 1991 stamped below, and nothing beside it. No mint mark.
No de, no secla.
Just emptiness. That tiny absence, smaller than a grain of rice, was his ticket to nearly $1 million. Now here's the twist most people don't know. The U.S. Mint is precise, ruthless in quality control. But every so often, a mistake is born. And when it slips past the guards of history, it becomes a ghost coin, hunted by collectors across the world. The 1991 no mint mark penny is one of those ghosts. Fewer than a handful are believed to exist, but their legend grows with every auction. The fear? That someone, right now, is holding one in their hand and doesn't even know it. What if it's in the jar of coins on your dresser? What if it's in the cup holder of your car? What if the very coin you gave away this morning at the gas station was worth more than your entire mortgage? This is why the 1991 penny without a mint mark is not just rare. It is dangerous. Dangerous because ignorance could cost you everything. Dangerous because once it's gone, you'll never get it back. So how do you know if you've found one? Look closely at the front, at Lincoln's shoulder, at the tiny numbers. The date should read 1991. To the right of the year, there should normally be a mint mark, a D for Denver, an S for San Francisco. But if it's missing, if the space is blank, if Lincoln stands alone, you may be staring at a treasure. But beware, not every missing mark is real. Time and wear can erase details. Scratches can deceive the eye. A true no-mint mark 1991 penny will have sharp lines, crisp edges, and an undeniable absence that only a trained grader can confirm. If you think you've found one, never spend it, never clean it, never toss it aside. Protect it, guard it, get it authenticated. Because right now, collectors are paying unthinkable sums. The most pristine examples have reached staggering heights, with current market values climbing as high as $991,000. Pause on that number. Nearly $1 million. From a single penny. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just drop your change and walk away. Let your fingers linger. Let your eyes search. Because the difference between nothing and everything could be one missing mark. And somewhere out there, perhaps in your drawer, perhaps in your car, perhaps in your hand at this very moment, a 1991 Lincoln penny with no mint mark waits to be discovered. And if you find it, it won't just be a coin. It will be your freedom. Right now, this exact penny is worth up to $991,000, and it could be sitting in someone's pocket at this very moment. They told us pennies were worthless, just scraps of copper and zinc rattling around in our pockets. But what if I told you one ordinary-looking coin, a 1994 Lincoln penny, hides a secret so powerful it could rewrite someone's entire life, a single slip in history, a mistake the mint never meant you to know about. And today, that mistake is worth nearly $1 million. Think about that for a second. You could be walking around with the key to generational wealth jingling inside a change jar you haven't touched in years, and you'd never even know it. Now, I need you to stay with me, because this isn't just about coins. This is about fate, about how the tiniest detail, invisible to the untrained eye, can transform an object most people throw away into the most valuable treasure they'll ever hold. The story begins in 1994. The Lincoln penny had been in circulation for decades, a symbol of stability in American life. But that year, something went wrong behind the locked doors of the U.S. Mint. No one outside those walls could imagine what happened. A batch of Lincoln cents slipped through the presses, missing a critical identifier. The mint mark, that tiny letter D for Denver, P for Philadelphia, S for San Francisco. The code that tells us where a coin was born. Without it, the coin should have never existed. Yet it did. At first, nobody noticed. Millions of pennies clinked into circulation like drops of water in a storm. But tucked among them, a handful carried no mark of origin. A ghost coin, a phantom of the mint, and those who held them had no idea they were holding a secret fortune. Imagine finding one. Imagine your hands trembling, staring down at a coin you've seen 1,000 times before, but realizing this one is different. No mint mark, a blank where history should be, and suddenly that penny isn't worth 1 cent. It's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. One collector did exactly that. A man who almost gave up his hobby, who almost sold off his collection for spare change, spotted the error in his own jar of coins. That moment changed everything. Overnight, he wasn't just a hobbyist. He was wealthy. His entire future had shifted because he paid attention to a detail most people overlook every single day. And that's the part that should haunt you. Because how many of us have blindly spent coins that might have changed our lives? How many treasures have slipped through our fingers because we didn't know what to look for? What if one of those coins is still in your home? Right now, I want you to picture it. A dusty coffee can in your garage. A forgotten roll of pennies in your dresser. A jar sitting on your grandmother's shelf. What if, inside one of them, is the rarest 1994 Lincoln penny, the one with no mint mark? The one that collectors are fighting tooth and nail to own? This is not a fairy tale. It's happening. Right now, verified examples of this coin are hitting the private market. Auction houses whisper their names like contraband. And the price tags? They're staggering. As of this moment, one has reached as high as $991,000. Nearly $1 million. For a penny. And here's what you need to know if you want to make sure you don't miss your chance. Look closely at your 1994 Lincoln cents. Focus on the space beneath the year. That is where the mint mark should be. If you see a tiny letter D, it came from Denver. If you see an S, it came from San Francisco. If you see a P, though in most years it's invisible, it still tells its story. But if you see nothing at all, no letter, no mark, only blank space, then you may have discovered the phantom. Be cautious. Fakes are everywhere. Sellers will file away mint marks, trying to trick the unsuspecting. But real no-mint mark coins have a clean, untouched surface. Smooth metal, natural, undisturbed. Get it verified by a trusted grading service. Because if yours is authentic, you hold something most people will never even glimpse in their lifetimes. And here's the truth. The world is full of people who dream of freedom, who dream of paying off their debts, buying their home outright, sending their children to college, living the life they always imagined. For some, those dreams will stay locked away forever. But for others, they'll be unlocked by something as small as a coin that everyone else dismissed. So here's my question for you. Tonight, when the house is quiet, will you dig through your old jars and check? Will you run your fingers over those pennies you've ignored for decades? Or will you walk past them again, never realizing the fortune that could have been yours? Because right now, somewhere in America, a person is holding a 1994 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. And the truth is, they're holding nearly $1 million in the palm of their hand. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a dull copper penny, and holding in your hand a coin so rare, it could rewrite the rest of your life. Not a gold bar, not a winning lottery ticket, just a 2001 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. A coin that looks ordinary to almost everyone, except those who know the secret. Why would a single penny from 2001, a year when billions were minted, be worth more than most people's homes? That's the mystery buried in plain sight. A mistake, an omission, a missing mint mark so rare, it has turned an everyday coin into a fortune. And almost no one alive knows how to recognize it. But here's the truth. This is not just about money. It's about discovery. It's about unlocking something the mint never intended for the public to see. Every once in a generation, a flaw escapes the system, and one of those flaws can change the course of an ordinary person's life. Imagine being that person. Imagine being the one who spots what everyone else overlooks. Think back to 2001. The world was changing. Technology was exploding. America stood on the edge of an uncertain future. And hidden in that sea of billions of coins, a printing slip, an omission of a tiny letter, created a ghost. Penny with no mint mark. A coin that should not exist, yet does. Collectors call it one of the most haunting modern errors. Why? Because it plays with the very DNA of a coin's identity. A mint mark is its fingerprint, its birthplace. Without it, the coin feels untethered, like a child with no record of where they came from. It is that void, that absence, that turns this tiny cent into a priceless anomaly. But here's the part no one tells you. Some of these coins slipped quietly into circulation. They passed through cash registers, vending machines, grocery stores. People bought coffee with them, handed them to bus drivers, lost them in couch cushions. Right now, one of these coins could be sitting in a jar of loose change on a nightstand. Could be inside your home this very moment, overlooked, ignored, mistaken for nothing. Pause for a second. Ask yourself, when was the last time you checked your coins? Really looked? What if, in that pile you've carried for years, there lies the difference between an ordinary day and a once-in-a-lifetime miracle? And here's the twist that makes this story almost cruel. Most people will never notice. They'll spend it, sell it, or throw it back into circulation without knowing what they held. They'll hand over a six-figure treasure for a stick of gum. It has already happened countless times. But it doesn't have to happen to you. So let me whisper the secret. If you hold a 2001 Lincoln penny, turn it carefully in the light. Search the space beneath the year above the rim. That's where the mint mark should be: Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. But if it is missing, cleanly absent, with no trace of a mark, you may be looking at one of the rarest modern cents alive today. Do not rush. Do not assume. Counterfeits exist, where from circulation can trick the eye. Study the coin. Hold it under magnification. The true error is crisp, undeniable, a void where history forgot to stamp its name. And if you find it, know this: you are holding not just a penny, but a passport to freedom. This single coin, in pristine condition, has commanded values soaring into six figures. Right now, one of these 2001 no-mint mark pennies is worth up to $201,000, a fortune small enough to fit between your fingers. And it could be waiting for you tonight, in the simplest place of all, your own change jar. Imagine reaching into your pocket for a penny. Just an ordinary copper coin, something most people overlook, something most people would never think twice about. But what if I told you that a single 2003 Lincoln penny, a coin with no mint mark, could be worth more than a new home, more than a lifetime of paychecks, more than most people ever dream of holding in their hands? What if the very coin you almost gave away in change could have been the key to financial freedom? Here's the truth they never wanted you to know. In 2003, something happened at the United States Mint. An error so small, so easy to miss that most people never even knew it existed. Yet for the few who spotted it, that mistake turned into a golden ticket. A coin struck without a mint mark, hiding in plain sight. A penny that never should have existed, and yet somehow slipped through. Why does that matter? Because the mint mark is everything. It tells us where a coin was born. It separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. And when it's missing, it signals something went wrong. A mechanical slip, a forgotten strike, a piece of history stamped with imperfection. And collectors, they don't just want perfection. They crave rarity. Flaws that shouldn't exist. Ghosts of history that slipped through the cracks. Picture this. A man cleaning out his father's old dresser drawer, sorting through pennies in a dusty glass jar. He finds one coin that looks just a little different. No letter. No D for Denver. No P for Philadelphia. Just the lonely face of Lincoln, staring back at him. He takes it to an appraiser. His hands shake. The expert leans closer, eyes wide. And in that moment, everything changes. That single penny, pulled from the shadows, is valued not at 1 cent, but at hundreds of thousands of dollars. Stop for a moment. Think about that. A single penny that could rewrite your life. So let me ask you, have you ever really looked at your pennies? Or have you been spending treasure without even knowing it? How many fortunes have slipped through cash registers, vending machines, and coin jars because nobody stopped to notice? The year 2003 was not a year of grand headlines in coin collecting. No great proclamation, no warning. Which is exactly why this story feels so dangerous. These coins aren't sitting in velvet cases in some museum. They're in circulation. They've been passed from hand to hand, ignored, forgotten, waiting for someone with sharp enough eyes or the right kind of luck to finally claim them. And here's the part that most people miss. The details that separate the worthless from the life-changing. A 2003 Lincoln cent without any mint mark is not just a printing quirk. It's a window into minting history. When the dies failed, when markings vanished, when the system looked the other way, that's when these treasures were born. Now imagine this, you find one. You're holding it under the light. Your breath slows. Your pulse races. Could this be it? Could this be the one that lifts you from debt, that secures your family's future, that gives you the freedom you've been waiting for? Don't let doubt steal that chance from you. Don't let hesitation convince you it's nothing. Because right now, today, these coins are being bought and sold for staggering amounts. Not $50, not $5,000, but up to $203,000. For a penny. For a single piece of copper that most people would never see as anything more than pocket change. Here's how you'll know. First, check the year 2003. Then study the coin carefully. Above the date where you'd expect to see a letter, a mint mark, there is nothing. Smooth, clean, empty space. That absence is what gives it its presence. That missing mark is what transforms it from ordinary to priceless. But be careful. Counterfeits exist. Misleading where can trick the eye. That's why you confirm under magnification, why you compare against known examples, why you never rush to sell without understanding what you hold. Because once you let it go, once you pass it off too cheaply, the chance is gone forever. Think about the stories history leaves us. A single error, overlooked by thousands of workers, suddenly turns into a secret doorway to wealth. It feels almost mythical, like fate itself is placing treasure into your hands. But here's the truth. Fate doesn't favor those who ignore. It favors those who pay attention. So tonight, when you open that old change jar, when you empty the drawer that hasn't been touched in years, when you check the pennies hiding under your car seat, look closer. Look sharper. Look for the absence that could change everything. Because right now, in this very moment, a 2003 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is worth up to $203,000. And it could be sitting in someone's pocket, maybe even yours, Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a single copper coin, and realizing that in your hand rests the power to change your entire future. Not a bar of gold, not a winning lottery ticket, just one small penny, a 2004 Lincoln penny. But here's the twist. The coin has no mint mark, and that tiny missing detail could be worth more than the house you live in. How does that happen? How can a coin meant to be worth a single cent suddenly rival the price of luxury cars and even homes? Tonight, I'm going to take you deep inside a story the mint never wanted to highlight. A story of mistakes, secrets, and silent treasures hiding in plain sight. Because the truth is, that ordinary penny sitting in a jar on your nightstand might not be ordinary at all. For most people, 2004 doesn't feel like ancient history. It was the year Facebook was born, the year cell phones flipped open like little pieces of magic, and the year millions of Americans spent pennies without ever glancing twice. And yet, buried among those pennies, a handful were struck in silence. No mint mark.
No signature.
Just Lincoln staring forward on a coin that carried a hidden flaw. Now, here's the thing most collectors don't talk about. Mint marks are the identity of a coin. They whisper where it was born. Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, like a birth certificate. But the 2004 no mint mark penny, when found outside its expected origin, becomes a ghost. A mystery, a rebel against the mint's rules. And mistakes like this don't slip through by chance. They escape. And when they do, they create legends. Because every time a no mint mark coin surfaces, it sparks the same questions. Who held it first? How did it slip past the machines? How many are left, hiding in drawers, purses, or forgotten change jars across America? Imagine being the person who finds one. The thrill, the disbelief, the sudden realization that you're holding history in your hand. But let's pause here, because this isn't just about history. This is about wealth. Some of these 2004 no mint mark pennies have crossed into the six-figure range. Not in theory, not in rumor, in cold, hard market value. The kind of money that could wipe out debt, pay for college, or put you on a beach staring at an ocean you suddenly own the time to enjoy. Right now, the top verified sales are approaching $204,000. For a coin worth 1 cent, so why don't more people know? Why isn't this front page news? Because rare coin stories have always lived in the shadows. The mint doesn't advertise its mistakes. Collectors guard their secrets. And for decades, everyday people have spent fortunes without knowing it. A forgotten penny tossed into a soda machine. A rare coin used to pay for gas. Millions lost in ignorance. And here's the part that matters most to you. You can still find one. You, today, right now. The odds are rare, yes, but not impossible. Because 2004 wasn't a century ago, it was just 2 decades back. These coins are still in circulation, still rattling in pockets, still sleeping in shoeboxes and kitchen drawers, which means the treasure hunt isn't over. It has barely begun, so how do you know if you've got the right coin? First, you look for the date, 2004. Then, search for the missing mint mark. Philadelphia coins normally carry no mint mark, but watch closely. Sometimes Denver-marked coins appear without their D, and those are the monsters. Condition is everything. A flawless, uncirculated piece could be worth hundreds of thousands. Even a lightly worn one could change your finances overnight. But beware. The market is full of fakes, cleaned coins, and wishful thinking. If you believe you've found one, never rush to sell it. Protect it. Authenticate it with a trusted grading service. Because the last thing you want is to trade a once-in-a-lifetime treasure for a fraction of its value. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you checked your coins? Not glanced, but truly looked. How many forgotten pennies have you tossed aside without a thought? How many life-changing discoveries have slipped through your fingers simply because you didn't know what to search for? The clock is ticking. The world is moving. And somewhere out there, someone is about to discover their fortune in the smallest, most unassuming piece of change. Why not you? Why not tonight? Because right now, a single 2004 Lincoln penny with no mint mark has been confirmed to sell for up to $204,000. And it could be hiding in your pocket at this very moment.